This follows the true story of award-winning writer Alex Wheatle from a young boy through his early adult years. Having spent his childhood in mostly a white institutional care home with no family or friends, he finally finds not only a sense of community for the first time in Brixton, but his identity and ability to grow his passion for music and DJing. When he is thrown in prison during the Brixton Uprising of 1981, he confronts his past and sees a path to healing. Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a new review, and today we're talking about the fourth entry, a part of the Small Acts anthology series, directed and written and created by Steve McQueen. Today we're talking about Alex Wheatle. I am really excited to let you all know what I thought about this particular entry, and if you should check it out in this spoiler-free review before we dive into it. As you all can see on the screen now, make sure you're following me on all my other social media accounts. If you are new to this channel, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you all can get the update and the alert from when I drop new content. And lastly, it would mean a lot to me if you all can share this video and give it a thumbs up. It helps out the channel, but I also really appreciate it. And in the comments, let me know you guys' thoughts of this film. Were you familiar with Alex Wheatle before you saw this? What were your thoughts on the performances, the message? And also, out of the 4 entries we've gotten this far, which has been your favorite one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. So, kicking this thing off with the positives, as I have said in the previous reviews for Mangrove, Lovers Rock, and last week with Red, White, and Blue, and now into this film, I feel so honored to be educated about these real life people and the situations that went down back in the 60s, the 70s, and 80s, and continues to go on. So it's just like, it's so impactful how these stories are still relevant. It's sad to say, but it's stuff that we're seeing in these films that are still taking place in different parts of the world. So I just love that I was able to learn who Alex Wheatle is and what he's about. Seeing the 3 different important parts of his life, from a kid, a teenager, to adult, and knowing that this man, even though he had so much to overcome, he's written a play called Uprising that's very famous and popular. He's written many novels that have been so impactful to many people's lives. So I just love that I'm, again, being able to be educated about these really important people and kind of diving into this review here in the positives and not giving away too much of the story. Learning and meeting Alex at a young age, him growing up in the children's home and how abusive, how lonely he was in that home, and how he was able to take that. You know, there's scenes where he's getting abused and he's literally at school getting into a fight and they throw him on the floor and wrap him up in restraints. It's just terrible stuff that he went through at a young age. Transitioning into him in his teenage years, for the first time of his life, he knows what it's like to be a part of a community, to have friends, to have family, to have his very first Christmas dinner at his teenage years, and then seeing that at a teenage, him making bad decisions, right? We all have our ups and downs in life, and him learning, having a friend, Dennis, who teaches him about swag and culture and music and different things within his culture, but then also learning a little bit about that street life, the hustle, and kind of getting himself mixed into some things, and then kind of transitioning to his adult years and him getting involved in the riots in 1981 riots and him going to jail and him kind of reflecting on his life. So I just really kind of love this way that we're able to look into this person's life and seeing these 3 most important parts of his life to what he, you know, all the stuff that he went through, all the adversity shaped him to be the man that he is today. So I really kind of love that journey. Going more into the story here in regards to, again, you're seeing Alex coming from a place where he doesn't know who his mom and dad were, where he comes from. He's Jamaican, and learning in his teenage years about culture, about food, about friendship, about, you know, the little things from haircuts to the way he carries himself, the way he speaks. And again, it's so important to see, for just from an outside looking in, to learn where you come from, learn about your culture. It's so important to see that, and you see that within this film, and that is even complemented with the supporting cast. We don't have a big ensemble cast, but the people that was involved in the script, I thought, left a good impact on the story. In particular, his friend Dennis, who he learns a lot from Dennis in his teenage years, whether it is how to talk, how to walk, what kind of music you should embrace in regards to your culture and where you come from. But then again, Dennis gives him some things that may have, you know, not necessarily been a good thing for Alex, but it's something that he learned from. And again, that's the street life. He gets into some drug activity. He also gets involved in the music industry a little bit. So it's just all those things shape the person that he becomes. So I just love the journey that we get with the character, as well as the characters that we get within this film that kind of help Alex become the person that he is. Going into the film's message, and there's so much to kind of unpack within the film, but just touching on some things that I really took away from it was, again, going back to Alex at a young age, growing up in the home, being abused, over overcoming adversity and seeing all that stuff. Again, it doesn't matter where you come from at a young age. You control your path, and you could either stew in that stuff, that bad stuff that you kind of grew up in, and just become, a bad person. You give up on hope, on people, on society. But no, Alex didn't do that. He took those things at a very young age and, again, inspired people. So I thought that message of it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't necessarily shape where your future is headed. So I love that message in the film, and there's many other things that this film has to say, in particularly going to the positives of the direction by Steve McQueen. Yet again, he brings this cinematic approach to these small individual stories. He shines a light on these individuals that, again, I knew nothing about, and highlights all the stuff that they went through. He also highlights, again, which has been the theme throughout these 4 stories, the injustice that went down in this particular time in regards to Brixton, and seeing the riots and what caused the riots, and the 13 people that I did not know about that lost their lives due to a fire that the police just swept under the rug and just were silent. So I love what Steve McQueen, his direction in this particular entry, what he's telling, what he's shining light on. I really appreciate his cinematic approach to telling these small but impactful stories, and the brutality of the police during this time. So I think Steve McQueen, yet again, knocks out of the park. And I've touched on it on every single review that I've done from this anthology series thus far. The connective tissue. Again, you're seeing people being a part of change. We see Alex in this film. He wants to inspire people. He wants to be a part of something. So he writes music that inspires him. He wants change. He wants an uprising to combat the injustices that's going on. So again, we see that from, even last week with Red, White, and Blue with John Boyega's character, him joining the police force. He wants to be a part of the change. And we see that kind of continue within this story with Alex. He didn't necessarily join the police force, but he wants to be a part of making music and inspiring people. And then, as we know later on in his career, in his real life, he writes books that inspires people. So I love, again, that kind of through line that we're getting through all these different stories, is being a part of change. So I love that aspect. Transitioning into some of my criticisms that I have here. Now, this particular episode was an hour and 5 minutes. So for me, unfortunately, this is a lot of stuff that we get with Alex, but I feel like at times we would just kind of, I don't want to say glance over, but we kind of skip some important character development, right? For example, there's a particular moment where Alex goes to a record store with Dennis to listen to Jamaican music, reggae music for the first time. And we see him within one scene buy his first reggae album, and all within 2 seconds, we fast forward 6 months later. So it's just like we had so much character development off screen that I would have loved to have dove deeper into. Like maybe add another 15, 20 minutes to this story would have really been a little bit more justice to this really important character, right? I would have loved to have gotten that, which kind of transitions into, we see that he really loves music. He has the Uprising song, which is a great song. We see that he's writing his own lyrics. He's being a part of a band, of a crew, when he wants to really focus on music. It's important to him. But again, doing my research, music is very important to Alex, but also literature and writing novels. And the film doesn't really dive into that aspect of his life. And that goes back to some of my criticisms that I had with Leroy last week. I would have loved to have seen more of his later accomplishments be implemented in this story. So I wish we would have got a little bit more of that within this film. And that's really, honestly, the only criticism I have. If I will, I will say the performance that we get from the young man that plays Alex Wheatle, I thought it was a fine performance. I didn't think it was as impactful as some of the other performances, like a John Boyega, like the people that we got, in the Mangrove 9. So I thought his performance was good, just not great. So wrapping my criticisms up, those are the things that kind of come to mind. But before I give you all my overall thoughts and my score, make sure, if you haven't already, to give this video a thumbs up, leave your thoughts in the comment section, share this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss any of my other content. With that being said, let me give you guys my overall thoughts and my score on this film. So overall, Steve McQueen does a great job at shining a light on Alex Wheatle's life, from his rough upbringings in this abusive childhood, being lonely, to finding friends, to embracing his culture, to making a stand against injustices within his community, and how those moments made him to be the great novelist that he is today. The film did at points skip over some character development and didn't really dive into the particular aspects of his life, but I thought the performance was fine from the actor and giving us a window into Alex's life and the film's message on feeling small and lonely and overcoming all odds and becoming someone that people inspire to be and look up to really hits home. With that being said, I'll give Alex Wheatle a 3 out of 5. It is not the most impactful film to me as Mangrove and Red, White, and Blue was, but still yet another great entry in this Small Axe anthology series, and I recommend you all give it a watch. And once you do, let me know what you all thought of it, your pros, your cons, and just all of the stuff that we talked about in this review. And also, like I said up top, what has been your favorite entry thus far in this Small Axe anthology? I think for me, Mangrove versus Red, White, and Blue. I think I'm giving a slight edge to John Boyega's performance, but I just love what we get with Mangrove. So I'll go Red, White, and Blue, and then Mangrove. But let me know your favorites thus far. So again, thank you all for watching this review. Hope you're staying safe. As always, make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss any of my other content. Thank you all for watching this review, and we'll see you on the next one.